Anyway, John Krysko is our presenter today, and he was ordained as an interfaith minister of the fellowship in 1981 by Paul. He received then a master's and doctorate in divinity from All Faith Seminary International, which is in New York City, and that was founded by Rabbi Joseph Gelberman, who was an early pioneer in interfaith work, and also a colleague with Paul. John's interest in interfaith work led him to form his own church, All Faith's Grace Church in Westchester, New York, and he served on numerous interfaith and nonprofit boards, including an ongoing 14-year participation with the Interfaith Center of New York, an offshoot of work begun at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. And John was here at the gathering and spoke about the Divine Feminine and some of that. It was really fascinating talk. So I'm looking forward to what he has to say. So let's give a warm fellowship welcome to John.
There was a man, a good man, a righteous man, a man who was so firmly anchored in his belief in God that he let God, in his understanding, lead him in all that he did. And he knew some of what was coming, including a very bad flood. Now this man was a modern man, but he still kept the faith of the patriarchs and the prophets. And he knew that he would be protected by God, because he had a covenantal relationship with God. So the rains came. He was prepared. And the rains really started to come up so badly that the police cars came in a community perhaps not unlike this, and evacuating everyone. But he said no. He said no to the police, and the police, they tried everything they could to have him go in the car with them to safety, but he said, no, the Lord is going to take care of me. The rains kept coming up. He knew that. He was fine. He was fine with that. He knew he was going to be taken care of. So then it gets so high, no cars can pass, but the boat comes, a little rowboat. And this rowboat says, please, it's getting worse. The weather reports it's going to be much worse than this. And he said, no. He denied that person, and so the person who rowed on just kept rowing. Finally, the waters came up, was inundating the house. He had to be on the roof of this house. And a helicopter overhead extended a rope down, a ladder, and he said, no, I have absolute faith in God that I'm going to be taken care of. Helicopter could do nothing. The weather was getting worse. The waters kept going, and, well, you can imagine, he ended up passing on. So he goes to his reward. He passes by Peter, and he's a little bit upset. And he wants to have an audience directly with God because he had that kind of relationship. And he said, God, I have such faith in you. I've always had faith in you. You know that. How did you let me die? And of course, God gave the only answer possible. I did send 3 messengers. So it's a good story. I'm sure many of you have heard that before. It takes on new meaning for today, for me. And I really looked at that story again from the perspective of 3 aspects of that. Well, things happen on the physical plane, right? The first help that was to come was on land itself, so the physical plane. So first sometimes we get a warning from the physical world, and certainly Mother Nature is telling us something. We could ignore that. Second, there's actually the water itself. Well, that's the water of all the emotions and the feelings that are rising up, threaten to engulf us everywhere, lack of understanding, all the emotions. That's another warning. We could ignore that, or put it in the context of something that think is going to protect us. So that doesn't work very well. Finally, there's that direct connection from air, from spirit itself. And so we're given these 3 opportunities. We are a multiplicity of aspects of ourselves. And some of us will respond more to one than the other, But we do get advance notices of what's happening in our life, but sometimes we ignore it because we have a context of what we think it should be. How many here do not know? It'd be easier. How many here do not know the story of Noah? Okay, no hands. What is that story? It's a very similar kind of story. You have a story where the righteous person who has a covenantal relationship with God listens and acts upon that. And of course he builds that boat, right? He builds that ark. Great symbol. And that ark brings in his community of believers, and he brings in all of creation, 2 by 2. And that's an important theme to this topic of the new Essenes, 2 by 2. But what happens when he's on the boat, as we know, he's been out there for some period of time, and what does he send first of all is the raven, right? So what is that raven? For those that have Native American or Celtic or earth energy, what is the raven messenger? Now the raven messenger, as you know, it went to and fro, it doesn't come back. But when you send out a raven, you don't really expect the raven to come back, right? That's not the nature of raven. The raven does its thing, goes back, so you don't really know if dry, because the raven goes to and fro, it says in the Bible, to the waters or sea. The raven took care of itself and did its thing. So what is the raven for us? Raven to me represents ancestral wisdom, our expectations of the best of what we have known to that point. And when we're like that fellow in the house on top of the roof, we're often like that. We look to the past or our own understanding to help guide us. But does that really come back to the ark? I don't think so. It wasn't intended. So then what does God do? What does God do? God through Noah then takes a dove, and it's referred to as her. Please pay attention to that in the story the next time you read it. Doves come in general, but she was sent out. And so the first dove that is sent out didn't find dry land, but it just comes back to the ark itself. So what is that dove? Well, that second dove, it's truth, but it's not yet from God. This is still from Noah. It's still from his own understanding. And it can't find dry land yet. It's not time yet. It's not like Noah blows it. But this whole story is things happen in their right time if we pay attention. But then he sends out that same dove. And that dove comes back. This time it lands on Noah's arm. And it has an olive branch, right? An olive leaf. And so what is that? All of a sudden, that wisdom, that love that Noah was open to comes back to him and enlightens him. And he now is starting to take this into his heart. So whatever that truth that is going to get him through the next phase of his life, he's now let it alight on his arm and he's taking it into his heart. The third dove, of course, the waters are ready to dry up, and when Noah releases it, he doesn't really expect that dove is going to come back, because he already knows that dry land is going to be coming up. He's letting the dove go to let the dove do what the dove needs to do. He no longer needs it in that way. The dove is going to go, land, and really be open to all of humanity. His needs are met, and now greater humanity's needs need to be addressed. The Essenes were such a people that lived their life in accordance with these principles. The Essenes are historically, as kind of the third of the priest groups or groups in that time of Jesus and a little bit before, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. Now, what were the origin of the Essenes? We know a little bit about how they probably lived, but the origin goes back to the whole biblical line. It goes back to the foundations, even perhaps to Noah. But it comes through in various times, various prophets, the various doves that get sent out, represent that school. But that school, that understanding, has been with us from the beginning. And it's always open to those that have a covenanted relationship with God. And what does that mean? It means that the relationship is so deep that you're friends with God. I love that idea of being a friend of God. You know, that the relationship is so strong that's so. So that relationship was the basis of the Essenes, but it goes back to Mount Carmel. It goes back to Elijah, the schools of the prophets that emerged from that, and there was this preparation. And the preparation was messianic, something to be drawn from the waters, something, when the waters go down enough, they were expecting something. I've heard many descriptions of the term Essenes, and one of the descriptions of the Essene is that they're the expectant ones. Now there's being a man, I've tried to develop the divine feminine as much as I can within me, but I can tell you absolutely, there's one thing that I cannot do, is bear a child. So I have real limitations about how much my expectancy will carry me, and it's a good reminder. But the Essenes were expecting not only a human representation of spirituality, of love incarnate, but they were expecting something, I believe, that was going to transform all of humanity. They were like the dove. They were ready to not only put their arm out and let it come to them, but they were waiting for that moment when they could release that dove into the world so that the world could be lifted up. And they spent a lot of time in purity, a lot of water rituals, a lot of healing rituals, and they always shared what they had with each other. The topic today is the new Essenes. What are we waiting for? Well, I thought about the new Essenes, and I said, aha, I think I know a place where I could find some new Essenes. This is where, it'd be great to take instead of the camera focusing on me, which is not particularly important, but have it focus on yourself and start to see yourselves as the new Essenes. And because the group, this idea of Essene isn't a physical community entirely, though it's important to ground it in the earth. It's one of consciousness. So anyone that's ever sought a higher way to problems in their life, that has sought a connection to have a friendship with God, that is open to it, and then follows that, is that person, he or she, not a part of that? If they share it with others and bring people into fellowship in some fashion or another, that would seem to be an Essene to me. So what does that mean today? The topic, what are we waiting for? Now I wrote that with a little tongue-in-cheek because there are at least a number of ways, at least 5 ways you could read that, depending upon what your emphasis is at a point of time. And you could change that emphasis as time goes on. What are we waiting for? 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 The two that most I wanted to focus on is the what we're waiting for and why are we waiting? And probably looking around, as they say, preaching to the choir, you're not waiting. This is a very active church, a spiritual community. You're already putting that to work. So what more could be asked of you except perhaps to take it to that next higher level? And I think there's no better time to do that than this time of the day after Magdalene's Day, is in bringing more fully, more respectfully, more open to the divine feminine. Noah, Abraham, let's just Noah, Abraham, and Moses. Okay, this is a spot quiz. Does anyone here know the name of Noah's wife? Huh? It's not listed, in the book. There's been some text about that. And the commentary, I love Judaism in so many ways. The Bible is great, but the commentary is just so very rich. Now, one name that was given to her is called Naamah, Naameh, and it means beautiful. And it's kind of dismissed by some of the Hebrew scholars. Oh, she was pretty, one of those granddaughters of Tubal-Cain, from that Cain side. So, okay, she was kind of pretty, did some nice music. And it's so much not a part of it, they didn't even give her a name. Certainly, Abraham, we know the story very well of Abraham. It's often told in his journeys. But what of Sarah? What is the wisdom school that Sarah attended? Well, the wisdom school that Sarah attended was part of the Egyptian school, and it actually comes back to play in some form in terms of Mary Magdalene. Because when she took her journey, it's been said that she took with her a dark-skinned person from the north of Africa, Alexandria, to help her in her journey, maybe the source of the Black Madonna, and her name was Sarah. So that divine feminine mysteries have not been spoken of entirely. And then, of course, you have Moses. His father-in-law was Jethro. That's the name. Jethro was an honorific title. He's kind of exalted one. That wasn't his real name. Jethro's real name was Reuel or Raguel, which means friend of God. And his daughter was a mystery school person too. When you look at the pictures of these holy women, you say, wow, what is the mystery? What is the wisdom of that? You cannot fly a plane with one wing. It's hard to row a boat with one oar. We need to combine and be open to the wisdom of the divine feminine. And that takes a radical openness. One of the things about the Essenes was their commitment. It wasn't like, oh, okay, at various times in my life, I was a once-a-week Catholic or various other religions after that. But when you're a mother or grandmother, that's 100% commitment. And the Essenes were 100% committed. It wasn't an obligation. And they did it out of love. That is the miracle, and that is the thing that's going to transmute from going from being scared to being sacred. I was thinking about that today. It was like looking at the new moon that we just had like a day ago. Within the aura of this new moon, one of the elements of this new moon with this sun and the moon so conjunct, Mars was right there too. So it was a very tense time in some ways. It was a little disrupting. I don't know what everyone experienced it, but how do you deal with the fear? What do we do? How do we get to the sacred out of scared? And that, to me, the only way that I know how to do that is together, out of love, and an equal partnership. And that absolutely means embracing the divine feminine. And it's so appropriate. I didn't know that the inspirational reading is going to be all about Mary Magdalene today, but obviously it's appropriate. And so the wisdom of Magdalene is about relationships. She certainly knew a lot about relationships. But she knew primarily about sacred relationships, and she was always open to the sacred. And that's the basis for me about the new Essenes, and for what interests me, is that radical openness to love that guides us. Because the raven is a messenger between this world and the next. We have all these thoughts about it. It's based in the past in some ways, always trying to mediate. I'm looking for the dove. And I'm looking for that dove to light on my arm, and I can't keep my arm out there as often as I can to let that come in and then embrace it into my heart. It's a time of a new moon for planting seeds. I had the good opportunity to be on the beach a couple of days ago in the evening, and it was a wonderful new moon meditation. And the new moon meditation, the theme was planting seeds. What a great, that has been historically, the new moon you plant the seeds and the full moon you reap it. So what is the seeds that we'd like to plant? The seeds that I would like to suggest you plant have to do with the gifts. We talked and listening today about that upper terrace, about the various gifts that we have, we probably have some sense of what our gifts are. But that could be raven consciousness, what we know about ourselves. I'm going to suggest, are you radically open to receive new gifts of spirit and to choose a new gift? So I'm going to finish my time, a lot of time together today, and it's a lead-in to those that want to stay afterwards to really explore this in-depth, in community, with music, with meditation, to explore it. But here's the new gifts. And growing up Catholic, there were always 2 plates passed. That's one of the ways you know you're in a Catholic service versus any other. The plate is often passed twice. Well, this plate is going to be given out to you, and not ask. I need nothing from you. What you have to give in spirit will enliven us, enrich us all. But in this basket, there are 12 written things down, and they are truth, love, beauty, justice, peace, and harmony. And corresponding on the other side, the other 6 would be understanding, connecting to truth, joy to love, grace to beauty, right action to justice, gratitude to peace, and acceptance to harmony. So everyone close your eyes for a moment and really just ask Spirit, what gifts are going to get you through the waters of your own life, through this planet's life, that are gifts that you might not have seen before or fully experienced in yourself and others. And I'm going to pass this around. And there are 12 times 4, so there are 48 of them. But I was inspired today to put 4 more in there. And that 13th one, so if you get a blank one, you don't say, oh my God, here it goes again. It will mean that you're really perhaps either so radically open that all of the gifts are available to you, or that you're beginning an entire another phase of your life. So if you get nothing, you've got everything. So please take one and pass the rest. And just close your eyes and pick one. So there'll be about 2 minutes of silence of the camera on the speaker. But don't look at the speaker. Look inside yourselves. Take the time to enjoy the silence. And let that silence be a shared silence that allows others to find their deepest truths. And like Noah, try to take it into your heart. And just think about it, and hold it close to your heart in a prayerful fashion, perhaps just on your hand on your heart. Imagine going into your heart. And we're going to use this to finish up with a meditation, with the message that you've been given, that you asked for. Okay. So here's the meditation. And hold it to your heart. And imagine that you're in that meadow that is so often shared here. And cross that meadow, cross the bridge, feel the water underneath, and you really are drawn to that wonderful mountain, that wonderful spiritual place. And you're going to go up that mountain with full expectancy, letting go of all that you don't need, letting light guide you up to that 4th terrace. And this terrace has always had a cave. And you can see this cave. Go around that green level until you find the entrance to that cave. And on the outside of that cave, there will be 2 angels waiting for you. Now your admission ticket is the gift that you have. Pronounce it to the angel. Articulate it. Let it resonate through everything in your heart and your mind, not just with your head, but let it fill your soul, your being. And feel the joy as you go into that cave. And inside the cave, just take, if you have shoes on, take them off. And sit down near the edge of the cave, and your angels will come and they will clean your feet. And when your feet are clean, then you'll go up to this wonderful white table at the center. And there's like a light shining from above on this table. And on this table is a very large book. See it in the manner that you see it. It could be gold, it could be letters, but it'll have your name on it. The book of Dick, of Nanette, of Jerry, of all the people here. It'll have your name on it. So, in holding that message that you are given, open that book of life of your own, and open to that one chapter that explains what that gift means to you in your life, what is asked of you, and what you need to let go to embrace it fully, to find the dry land that you're seeking. So spend just a moment in that place and let your book speak to you about this gift. And there will be at least one thing that the book will suggest. It never tells, it suggests. It would be in your highest good for the highest purpose. And take note of that action. And when you're ready, just close the book. Always give thanks to God, to the angels, to all those that help you, and those whom you are going to have the opportunity to help. Be grateful for that opportunity to serve. And in your own time, come out of the cave. And any time you want to come back to that cave, it only takes that radical openness to what God has for you. It is said it is better to give than receive, but if you cannot receive, you cannot give. So be appreciative of your gift. And then come back into your body and into this place we call the fellowship. Thank you.